Once upon a time, in the shadow of the Cold War, a young American businessman walked into Moscow eager to make a deal. He was bold, brash, and desperate to expand his empire beyond the glittering skyline of New York. What he didn't know, or perhaps didn't care to question, was that he had stepped into the web of one of the most powerful intelligence agencies in the world, the KGB. For decades, Soviet and later Russian intelligence agencies have cultivated assets, not just spies but influential figures, businessmen, politicians, media moguls, people who could be nudged, flattered and entangled in relationships that pay off years, even decades later. And according to a former KGB chief, this is exactly what happened in 1987. Vladimir Putin, a former head of Kazakhstan's National Security Committee and an ex-KGB officer, posted this on February 20th, 2025, and stated that Donald Trump's codename was Krasnov.
In 1987, I worked in the 6th Department of the KGB of the USSR in Moscow. The most important area of work of the 6th Department was the acquisition of spies and sources of information among businessmen from capitalist countries. It was in that year that our department recruited the 40-year-old businessman from the USA, Donald Trump, nicknamed Krasnov.
The story begins in 1977. Trump's first wife, Ivana, a Czech citizen, had been monitored closely by Czechoslovakian secret police, and the reports confirmed Trump was a person of interest. In an interview with the Byline Times, Vladimir Milnov in 2019 stated,
Trump was identified as a useful opportunist by the KGB in the early 1980s.
In 1986, at a New York luncheon, Trump gets seated next to a USSR ambassador, Yuri Dubdin, and his daughter. And his daughter flatters Trump by discussing Trump Tower in Moscow. And by July 1987, Trump makes his first visit to Moscow and Leningrad, and it's to negotiate a luxury hotel. He stays at the National Hotel's Lenin Suite, which is known for KGB surveillance. He meets Politburo officials and Soviet economic advisors. And according to Musayev, this is when Trump is recruited and given the code name Krasnov. And this is also coincidentally when Trump starts attacking NATO, because in September 87, Trump starts buying full-page ads in major newspapers and he starts attacking NATO and US foreign policy. It's also when Trump begins floating the idea of running for office.
Oprah asks if he might run for president someday.
I would never want to rule it out totally because I really am tired of seeing what's happening with this country.
By 1991, Trump's financial struggles begin to take effect. His businesses suffer multiple bankruptcies, making him reliant on foreign money.
While his family life may have been on the rocks, his business empire was crumbling.
The headline was quite accurate. Welcome to the 90s, Donald. Because it was like he got whacked right in the face. It was amazing.
Trump opened his third casino in Atlantic City in April 1990. But just months after it opened, the Taj Mahal missed one of its debt payments, and Trump began looking for a bailout.
His empire could be at risk of collapse if the New Jersey Casino Commission decides not to approve Trump's bailout plan.
By the fall of 1991, all 3 casinos had filed for bankruptcy.
The New Jersey Casino Control Commission has unanimously approved Donald Trump's bailout plan. That plan allows him to use his 3 Atlantic City casinos as collateral for a $65 million loan.
In order to finance a loan, Trump was forced to sell off his airline, his yacht, and a chunk of one of his earliest projects, the Grand Hyatt Hotel in Manhattan.
You know, I had a wife who was suing me for $2 billion. I had the banks, I had this, I had that.
And in 1996, Donald Trump returns to Moscow, and he meets with the mayor and other top city officials to discuss real estate projects. Russian oligarchs with Kremlin ties purchased Trump properties at inflated prices.
Ultra-wealthy Russians are buying up real estate in the United States, CNBC reported. Russian investors are also known to play by different rules, with a premium on discretion and a tendency to make all-cash deals.
That was mentioned in the Russian intelligence report by the Senate. Even as late as 2008, Donald Trump Jr. was confirming that Russians make up a disproportionate cross-section of a lot of our assets, and that was at a real estate conference. In 2013, Trump hosts Miss Universe in Moscow.
It's an amazing country with, so many friends in Russia.
Russian roulette, the inside story of Putin's war on America and the election of Donald Trump. They say Trump personally reviewed all 16 Miss Universe finalists before they were announced on the show, and he sometimes overruled the judges.
He could decide, because it's his pageant, who wins and who loses, and he would personally inspect all the contestants and decide for himself who he liked, who he wanted up there on the stage.
The authors say that Trump was obsessed with the idea of meeting Russian President Vladimir Putin. But the get-together fell through, apparently due to a traffic jam in Moscow on pageant night that forced Putin to bail out. The authors say when Trump returned to America, Putin sent him a present as a consolation, a beautiful black lacquered box. Inside was a sealed letter. What the heck did that letter say?
Good question.
No one knows. For years now, Donald Trump has not talked about this letter. He brags about everything else, but he won't tell us what was in this private letter from Putin to him.
And this is a period covered in Christopher Steele's dossier, which alleges compromat, essentially meaning that Trump has been compromised because they have material on Donald Trump, which is meant to involve
beep, beep, tape, beep, beep, tape.
And in my research, I discovered this news story.
A married Donald Trump supposedly invited a Hungarian beauty queen to his hotel room after attending the 2013 Miss Universe pageant in Moscow. Former Miss Hungary Kata Sarka, age 30, told a reality show host last May that she was attending the pageant's after-party when a man surrounded by bodyguards approached her. Sarka said, "A man approached me and grabbed my hand, drew me to himself, and asked, 'Who are you?' She added, 'He gave me his business card with his private number and told me in which hotel and in which room he's staying in. And his name is Donald Trump.' Sarka says she never took him up on his offer because he's not my type." Trump, who had been married to his third wife, Melania, for 8 years at the time, is under scrutiny over an unverified 35-page document that claims the Russian operatives gathered damaging video recordings of perverted sex acts and information on the president-elect during the 2013 Moscow visit for blackmail.
This coincidentally seems to be a point where Trump begins to praise Vladimir Putin publicly.
Are you an admirer of the Russian?
I think he's done really a great job of outsmarting our country.
Putin even sent me a present, beautiful present.
We just left Moscow. He could not have been nicer.
Russia is like, I mean, they're really hot stuff.
He's running this country, and at least he's a leader, you know, unlike what we have in this country.
Yeah, but again, he kills journalists that don't agree with him.
Well, I think our country does plenty of killing also, Joe.
He said Donald Trump is a genius, and he's going to be the leader of the party, and he's going to be the leader of the world.
Then we have the beginning of Trump running for president. And it just so happens at that same point, the FBI and CIA start to report on Russia doing cyber attacks against the Democratic National Convention. And ex-Trump campaign chairman Paul Manafort admits sharing info, polling data, with the Russians. Then there was this from Donald Trump asking Russia to investigate Hillary Clinton.
She gets subpoenaed, and she gets rid of 33,000 emails. That gives me a problem. Now, if Russia or China or any other country has those emails, I mean, to be honest with you, I'd love to see them. Russia, if you're listening, I hope you're able to find the 30,000 emails that are missing. I think you will probably be rewarded mightily by our press.
Donald J. Trump is the president of the United States.
But from the very offset, Trump is beset on all sides about allegations of Russian interference.
Will you once and for all, yes or no, definitively say that Russia interfered in the 2016 election?
I think it could very well have been Russia, but I think it could well have been other countries, and I won't be specific.
But you haven't condemned Putin specifically. Do you hold him personally responsible?
Well, I would, because he's in charge of the country, just like I consider myself to be responsible for things that happen in this country. So certainly, as the leader of a country, you would have to hold him responsible, yes.
I will tell you that President Putin was extremely strong and powerful in his denial today.
President Trump refusing to blame Russia for election interference.
I have President Putin. He just said it's not Russia. I will say this, I don't see any reason why it would be. In a key sentence in my remarks, I said the word would instead of wouldn't. The sentence should have been, I don't see any reason why I wouldn't, or why it wouldn't be Russia. So, just to repeat it, I said the word would instead of wouldn't.
But it's only by 2019 that the Mueller report is released, a report that investigated Trump's ties to Russia, and that it found Russia actively interfered in the 2016 election in order to help Trump win.
Central allegation of our indictments, that there were multiple, systematic efforts to interfere in our election. And that allegation deserves the attention of every American.
It said that the Trump campaign had 140 plus contacts with Russian operatives. And then Trump attempted to obstruct justice at least 10 times. Summarized by John Oliver.
It found a lot of other stuff, because just consider what we learned or had confirmed this week. Russia interfered in our election and made efforts to help Trump win. While his campaign did not provably cooperate with Russia, they seemed eager to accept their help in a way that no one should be comfortable with. Also, Trump may have obstructed justice, and if he didn't, it might only be because people who work for him ignored his orders. And on top of all of this, the Attorney General, the nation's top law enforcement official, has proven himself to be a dishonest hack.
Long, tense days, we've reached a historic moment in this election. CNN projects Joseph R. Biden Jr. is elected the 46th president of the United States, winning the White House and denying President Trump a second term.
And just to remind you all, when that man left office from losing fair and square, he ordered a load of people to attempt a coup.
They were peaceful people. These were great people. The crowd was unbelievable. And I mentioned the word love, the love in the air. I've never seen anything like it.
After a few years of licking his wounds and a few court cases showing that he sexually assaulted someone, Trump went straight back into battle and started attacking the UN, NATO, and other enemies of Russia.
NATO was busted until I came along. I said, everybody's going to pay. They said, well, if we don't pay, are you still going to protect us? I said, absolutely not. They couldn't believe the answer. They asked me that question. One of the presidents of a big country stood up and said, well, sir, if we don't pay and we're attacked by Russia, will you protect us? I said, you didn't pay? You're delinquent? He said, yes, let's say that happened. No, I would not protect you. In fact, I would encourage them to do whatever the hell they want. You got to pay. You got to pay your bills.
No doubt that put a bit of a smile on certain people's faces.
What's your relationship like with Vladimir Putin?
Very good, but I was tough with him. The Russian attack on Ukraine would have never happened. I got along very well with Putin. I got along with Zelensky. And I actually think that the way Afghanistan worked, the kind of withdrawal, was the most embarrassing day in the history of our country. When Putin looked at that, he said, wow, let's go in. Nobody ever heard of Nord Stream 2 till I got involved. Putin said to me, that's the biggest thing. You ended it. You ended the pipeline. They all say you and I are friendly, but I'd hate to see you as an enemy. It's not that Putin is smart, which of course he's smart, but the real problem is that our leaders are dumb.
And despite everything that I've just shown you and we've talked about, in 2024, Donald Trump won and became President of the United States. And boy, did he get off with a bang, starting off by calling President Zelensky of Ukraine, who'd been invaded, a dictator.
I love Ukraine, but Zelensky has done a terrible job. His country is shattered, and millions of people have unnecessarily died. He refuses to have elections, is low in the real Ukrainian polls. I mean, how can you be high with every city is being demolished? It's hard to be high. Somebody said, oh no, his polls are good. Give me a break.
Do you think that President Putin of Russia is also a dictator?
I think that President Putin and President Zelensky are going to have to get together because you know what? We want to stop killing millions of people. You have young soldiers being killed. If you saw the pictures that I saw of the battlefield from satellite, you've never seen any pictures like that.
He's even attacked the UK and France.
If Putin likes Donald Trump, guess what, folks? That's called an asset.
Once upon a time, a young American businessman walked into the heart of Moscow, dreaming of power and fortune. He left with more than just business contacts. He left with a relationship that would shape his career, his presidency, and your world. Let me know your thoughts in the comments. Is Trump just a useful idiot, or have I got this completely wrong? And once again, thank you to all my patrons and YouTube supporters who keep this channel going and growing. If you'd like to help the channel for free, hit that like and subscribe button. Once again, thanks for listening. Bye for now.